I want to take some time today to talk about something that's been bothering me a little bit. As I'm sure many people out there are aware, Spike Lee made a remake of Park Chan-wook's Old Boy. And the internet went fucking nuts. Seriously, there are people who are practically calling out for Spike Lee's blood because he dared to remake the untouchable Old Boy. And you know, these are the exact same people who whined and bitched and moaned whenever any remake of any movie that they held dear came out. Oh, why can't they just leave Well Enough alone? Oh, it's such an untouchable classic. How does this even affect you at all? At all? I mean, does that somehow make the other movies disappear? Because Spike Lee is making a remake of Old Boy, all of a sudden every single copy of the original Old Boy ever made will vanish, and all we'll be left with is this probably inferior movie? No, that doesn't work that way. You still have the original movie. Sure, you'll have a lot of dipshits who might say something like, "Oh, that was a remake," and I really shouldn't say that because honestly, I mean, especially when you get more obscure movies, it's not completely far off to think that there's someone who maybe would see a trailer for Old Boy might not have seen the original. That's not far off. I shouldn't say that, but and I understand when sometimes I might get a bit irritated or especially if someone says they're trying to make it better or something. Hey, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily a fan of the idea of remakes. Oftentimes, yeah, I think they're fucking unnecessary. And it's just a cash grab to try and pander to an audience who might not... Maybe it's the creators who think that they want their story to be heard and seen, but they don't think people would take the time to watch an older movie, because that is actually kind of a sad state of affairs with a lot of people these days. I know many people who generally don't watch a lot of movies made more than 10 years ago. But that's going to happen. You are going to have people who are more into things that are here in the now, people who are going to be more into things that are newer and maybe appeal to them more, and that's going to happen. It's sad because so many movies will linger, go down into obscurity, but that's the way it is. And it's your job as a fan to keep these movies alive. And really, it's up to us. Ultimately, we are going to be the ones who decide whether or not a movie is ever talked about. Because sometimes, we have to be the one to talk about them. You just need to take it as yourself to educate people about these movies, about where these remakes come from. But more to the point, what bugs me is these people that just take it upon themselves to get up on their soapbox and talk about how they're ruining our movies. And let me bring it to a side topic here. I'm a big Star Wars fan. No secret. And people always say, "Oh, what's your opinion on George Lucas?" Because there seems to be kind of the thing, especially amongst Star Wars fans. I mean, especially ones. I mean, I have to admit, I was not alive when the original 3 were released. I wasn't even a thought yet. But I grew up watching the original Star Wars movies before the new ones came out. I did. I had seen Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and A New Hope long before, or maybe not long. When did the movie come out? 1999 or something like that. So I probably would have seen them around 94, 95. something like that. I mean, I was born in '89, so you do the math. But saw them at a very young age, and of course, I fucking love them. You know, it's a little boy's dream movie, really. And so, you know, and okay, maybe I don't like the prequels, and yes, I do fucking hate the Phantom Menace, and I don't like the special editions. I don't like the fact that he made those ones the only ones that you can really readily get available on DVD. Although, to be fair, I do believe I remember hearing about when they released them all individually in 2-disc editions, and apparently the second disc had the original theatrical versions. And if I remember correctly, looking back, I didn't pick them up stupidly. I don't think I had money at the time. I definitely want to look further into that. If anybody can either confirm or deny that, please feel free to say so in the comments section. Although I'm probably going to look it up on Amazon anyways. But that being said, you still have the original ones. You know, people are talking about how George Lucas raped my childhood. Okay, maybe it means you have to stick with a VCR to watch them. Or maybe that means you do have to scour the internet to try and find a rip of the original versions. But so fucking what? Just do it. And stop bitching and moaning about all of this stupid shit. Because, okay, I'll admit it. It annoys me too. It annoys me that I do have all 3 of the original films on DVD. But yes, they are the special edition. Does that bug me? Yeah, it kind of does. At least for Return of the Jedi. Honestly, A New Hope and Empire are only moderately fucked with, to be completely honest. And I'm not going to get into the whole who shot first, Han or Greedo, because honestly, it's just stupid. It's a short little scene, and it's over as quickly as it begins, and boom, you're on with the rest of the movie. Big fucking deal. But he didn't take them from you. He didn't. He really didn't. George, and I think everybody really ought to show him a little goddamn respect. That's right. I'm going to go out and say that. You know, yeah, sure, maybe he went a little crazy with it, and maybe when he regained the reins of these, that he kind of mucked them up a bit. Sure. But he still created this universe in the first place. Without a George Lucas, there is no Star Wars. Without him, there would not be any of this. And I think people lose sight of that. I'm getting really off topic, but it kind of ties into what I'm trying to say here. But as far as getting mad about remakes, it makes no sense. Can you be annoyed? Sure. But it's just the same as you can be annoyed that there's another Tyler Perry movie coming out. Or, God forbid, another Adam Sandler. You know, and sure you get annoyed about that because all these movies are getting tons and tons and tons of money. And these, you know, maybe smaller movies that you would like to see made, maybe not, you know. And, you know, while we might not get Guillermo del Toro's At the Mountains of Madness, we're going to have Grown Ups too. Now, I don't think the really two are necessarily all that connected. I mean, heck, I don't even think they're even made by they're even optioned by the same studio. But the general idea is there that crap seems to be getting the go-ahead while genuinely interesting projects get stuck in development hell. And so I get getting pissed about that. I do. But just foaming at the mouth and just inundating the internet with all these whiny posts about how they're ruining movies. They're not. Remakes, bad remakes, good remakes, no remakes will ruin the original film. If your vision or opinion of a movie is tainted by how bad or incorrect the remake is, it's not the remake's fault. You're just a shitty movie fan. And sure, maybe it is making more people, you know, side with the newer one over the older one, because that's what really pisses off when people go and see remakes and not the originals, because you feel like they're half-assing it. And that's where you need to come in. You need to be able to tell these people, no, Evil Dead is actually really, really good. Now, I actually kind of like the Evil Dead remake. But, no, it's like, you know, you like that, you gotta see this, you know. You have to take that upon yourself, because if we don't do it, who will? And I don't do it in some kind of attempt to fight remakes. Remakes are going to happen because studios like making money. So it's just going to keep happening. And it's not something that you really need to call to arms or something that really needs to be stopped, because it shouldn't affect you in the slightest. In fact, it's actually kind of pissing me off that it affecting you, and I know there are going to be people who are watching this video and they're going to be, well, I don't give a fuck about remakes. No, I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you over there who got so pissed off when Universal decided to remake Dawn of the Dead, and you thought, oh, why can't they just leave well enough alone? The movie's perfect. I kind of like, once again, also kind of like the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Do I think it's a superior movie? Absolutely not. Dawn of the Dead is my favorite movie of all time. George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, that is. Weird that I even justify that, but it should not affect how you view the movie. It shouldn't affect how anybody views the movie, because it has nothing to do with it. They're completely separate movies. Judge them on their own grounds as being a movie. And then start thinking about movies you really like. The Thing with Kurt Russell. The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. Maybe Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland. Fucking Scarface with Al Pacino. The Departed with Jack Nicholson and Leonardo DiCaprio. All roundly highly regarded movies. All did rather, maybe not all well in their theatrical run, but have cemented a place for themselves as really well admired movies. All remakes. Every single last one of those movies I just mentioned is a remake. Now, I know a lot of you people know that, but it seems that people who always get pissed off about remakes don't seem to understand the fact that that doesn't, just because a movie is a remake doesn't mean it is going to be bad. If you judge it purely on the basis of its own film, oftentimes in movies you would have otherwise dismissed or maybe not even watched, you might actually find a movie you actually quite enjoy. In fact, all those movies that I just mentioned, all those remakes, I like all those movies better than their originals. I honestly think they're better movies. Sometimes that can happen. Oftentimes, when a remake really works is if a movie that isn't really all that special to begin with. I am not saying that about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, however. That was a great movie, and then a great remake. But movies like The Fly, with Vincent Price, or Howard Hughes, Scarface, The Thing from Another World. They're good movies. Don't get me wrong, but there's a reason why the remakes are better, because they're better movies. And that can happen. And just because, we get a bunch of bad or shitty remakes, like When a Stranger Calls, or fucking The Fog, or Guess Who, the remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which is a fucking masterpiece. Just because they suck, that doesn't mean the whole idea is to pot, It's not like, I've listened to 3 death metal bands and they all sucked. Oh, well, the whole genre must be terrible. No, that's not the case at all. Like I said, for everything that's bad, there's always, there's going to be something that's good. And I think people really forget that. And so, my final thoughts on remakes are they unnecessary? Yes. But are they doomed from the get-go? Absolutely not. And I think that people need to really, really, really take note of how good their lives must be if Spike Lee directing a Korean movie, which, albeit a good movie, I must also say isn't as untouchable as everyone thinks it is. It's good, but it's not that good. If that's the worst thing you have to worry about, then you have the world's greatest life.